This is the Hype Squad with Charli McConnell, a podcast where women can be full of themselves and brag about what they're good at. Each week, we're going to bring you conversations covering topics like motherhood, life, relationships, business, and everything in between, because anything is possible with your very own Hype Squad. What's up, ladies? Welcome back to the Hype Squad. I'm so happy you're here. Today is going to be a solo episode, and I wanted to talk about journaling. So, here's the thing. I have worked with my fair share of therapists in my lifetime, and every single one of them have told me to journal. And every single time they've told me, I've gone home, I've gotten a new spiral notebook, I've gotten all my pretty pens because girl loves some office supplies, and I start journaling. And what happens every single time is I get pissed off because my hand can't keep up, or it starts cramping, or I hate the way my handwriting looks like, and I give up. And typically these spiral notebooks have maybe 3 or 4 pages filled out, and then the rest of them becomes like a doodle book of some kind or thrown away. Journaling has always been hard for me. And now that I am coaching women, I realize that I am not alone. Like, journaling is hard for a lot of women. And I tell them all the time, I give them alternate ideas about how to journal, like some other ideas for journaling. And there's a couple of different ways to go about it. And I want to share them with you today so that you can explore some of these if you haven't already. So, one thing that I really like is I like to type my journal. I can type a lot faster than I can write. It's typically something that I'm already pretty comfortable with doing. There's spell check. I can copy or I can go back and edit really easily. And so typing has always been really easy for me, easier than writing. Another thing that I did with typing in mind is I started writing to my daughter. And I've shared this in another podcast, maybe or maybe not. It has aired or you've heard it at this point. But I started doing this a couple of years ago where I write to Sailor, my daughter. And if you're my age or older, maybe a little younger, you understand who Carrie Bradshaw is. If you don't know who I'm talking about, don't tell me because it'll just make me feel old. But I really get into my Carrie Bradshaw moment and start typing. And if you ever watch Sex in the City, you know she writes a very specific way and it just flows. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So I get into my like Carrie Bradshaw mindset, headspace, whatever, and I start writing to her and I tell her stories. I tell her things that I want her to know about me. Hopefully one day when I'm gone, she can read these journal entries and learn me in a different way. Because here's the thing, like, if your mom is still with us or if you have grown kids, you understand that the time that you get alone with your kids is sacred and happens very rarely. And so the opportunity to share stories with your kids does not happen that often. And so I thought it would be a really cool way of sharing stories with her whenever she's ready to read them. So I started her an email address that I have the password to. Obviously, she's 7 at this point, so she is not signing into an email address anytime soon. But I send them all to her email, and I have a topic, and it's always something that's um, feels very current in a story I want to share. And she's obviously too young to hear it now. So that's one thing that has really worked for me. Now, I will tell you, even that is few and far between. I maybe write one journal entry every couple of months. It's not an everyday thing by any means. But I wanted to give you that idea in case that lands for you. So, typing, just get Microsoft Word or Notepad, whatever you have, and just start typing and saving it for yourself. Another thing that is probably my favorite is video journaling. And I'm going to say that, and so many people are going to hear or see me say that and go, oh, no, no way. Am I getting on my phone or in front of a camera to any capacity and journaling? Hear me out. So, if you ever heard of mirror work, mirror work is a tool that a lot of people in in the coaching industry or just like mindfulness therapy, whatever, use as a tool, which is basically standing in front of a mirror and looking at your body, getting to know yourself, getting comfortable with yourself. So I explain that to you because in my mind, video journaling is like a really enhanced form of mirror work. And the thing that has happened for me with video journaling is when I started this before it was a podcast, when I was just trying to get on social media, I really had to practice talking to my phone and talking into a camera and trying to be authentic and talking the way that I really talk and not this like presentation voice or, anything like that, because that's what I did. Like on cue, I felt like I needed to be presenting anytime I got on and got on social media in a video of any kind. Anyway, so I needed to practice. And what happened is I just started talking and I just started talking about whatever was going on. And before I realized it, I would do like 10 to 15-minute video journals. And magically, it was like I processed whatever the thing was through the video journaling, like me talking it out. And as a side note, I can't be the only one that as a young driver, 16, 17, would talk to myself in the car. Did anybody else do that? Or was that just me? Like I would literally talk like there was somebody sitting in my passenger seat about whatever was going on. Guys, friends, moms, siblings, like whatever my drama was, I would talk in my car like somebody was sitting next to me. Maybe it was just me, but I doubt it. I feel like it's kind of like that. Like you're talking to somebody like they're in the room and you don't want any feedback. You don't want any advice. You just want to say what it is you need to say. That's what video journaling does. And what's really cool about it is that you can go back and listen to it, watch it, and you can hear the tone in your voice. You can see the inflection on your face. You can read it and you can almost, and I've given this assignment to clients of mine to go back and listen to them themselves and try to dissociate from the fact that it's you and try to pretend like it's a friend and listen to her. Hear her struggle, hear her conflict, whatever it may be, and sympathize with her, right? And it works. It really, really works. And also, like, this is a weird situation that I'm like looking into a camera and I'm talking and I'm getting to hear my voice and see my face. Most people don't get to do this. But I will say that in doing this, I have learned myself so much more than I ever thought I could. Most people listening or watching this, I'm going to ask you, like, do you know what your face looks like when you talk? If you're not on camera or you're not on social media all the time, chances are you don't. Do you know what your voice sounds like when you're being authentic versus your like, I don't know, phone voice or whatever, right? Like your working voice. Do you know what the differences are? Do you know what you sound like when you're sad? Do you know what you sound like when you're happy? Do you know what your face looks like, right? So for me, I realized that the people in my life, my husband, my best friends, my family, they know what my face looks like when I say or talk or whatever, but I don't know. So I want to know myself like they know me, right? Video journaling it kind of does that for you too, right? And it's uncomfortable for everybody when they start, but it becomes this tool of talking through problems in real time. And sometimes you don't even need to go back and listen to it. Sometimes you process it without ever having to go back at all. Sometimes you just delete it. But it almost like sets the intention of I'm going to talk this out. And if I need to go back and listen to it, I can. And maybe you don't. But I have seen huge change for myself and for the women that I work with through video journaling. And the way that I do it for my clients is an app called Marco Polo. I love Marco Polo. It's one of my favorite apps ever, probably the favorite app of mine. And it's a video messaging app. There's probably 100 other like it, but I really like Marco Polo. And it's a video messenger. And so I offer that to my clients as their way to access me. And what's really great about it is so much happens just in Marco Polo. And it's a great way for them to get to know themselves better, to step out of their comfort zone, to process things differently, and to also keep me up to date. Like when you're working with a coach or a therapist, like a lot of shit happens in between your week sessions, right? And so it's a great tool for me to understand what's going on so that when they get into the session with me, we can dive into it. They don't have to update me. I already know, right? They can give me a Marco Polo update. And what I find is once I get women on this app, more than likely they start bringing all their friends into it because it's so infectious. It's like FaceTime, but whenever you can get to it. So like FaceTime, if somebody FaceTimes me and I'm not in a perfect situation to answer it, I'm not going to answer it. But if they Marco Polo me in an hour, 2 hours, maybe 5 minutes from now, when I have time to sit and listen and reply, I can do it on my own time. But I still get to see them and I get to hear them and I get to see what they're doing. Anyway, this is not a plug for Marco Polo app, but it is a plug for an alternative way of journaling because I think the premise of journaling is really important, but you have to figure out what works for you. Maybe you're a writer and that works great for you, and you don't have carpal tunnel and you love your handwriting and you could write for days. And I love that. Do you? But that wasn't for me. If you're hearing this, and it's not for you either, then try one of these other ideas. Type it, video journal it. Maybe you just audio. Maybe you don't want to do the video part. Maybe you just do a voice memo, a voice recording of some kind. But the point here is to learn yourself, get to know yourself. And because at the end of the day, you're the only person that you're going to live the rest of your life with. Get to know her, love her, commit to her, give time to her, dedicate to her. So I wanted to share that in case there were any good tips that you could take with you and use for the future. Also, because it is the Hype Squad, I'm going to share my hype list. So if you're not familiar with the hype list, it is a list of achievements and obstacles that you've overcome in order to achieve those things. And it's a great reminder of how strong and how much of a badass you are. And so hopefully every time you listen to one of these episodes of the Hype Squad, you say something on your own hype list to yourself. For me today, because every episode I do this, I'm going to say my achievement has been finding a method of journaling that works for me and not giving up and really learning myself because I love her and I fall in love with her more every day the more I get to know her. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without journaling. The obstacle that I overcame in order to achieve that was just to continue showing up and continue trying different things and being open to ideas and putting myself out there in a way that may have felt silly or ridiculous, but doing it anyway. So I hope something from this episode landed for you. If not, just leave it where it is. But regardless, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you're a part of this community. And thank you so much for coming and getting hyped with me today. I am also a women's coach. If you're ever interested in coaching, reach out to me. We can get on a free discovery call and you can learn more about what coaching is and if it's right for you. And I would love that. I hope that today and every day you are kind to yourselves and everyone around you.